The Consulting Success podcast is powered by the Clarity Coaching Program. If you'd like to work directly with the Consulting Success team and receive personal coaching and support to optimize and grow your consulting business, marketing, and revenue, visit consultingsuccess.com to find out more and apply.
Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. Today, I'm very excited to have Georges Chakar. Georges, welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Happy to be with you. It's a pleasure and honor, actually, to be on such a well-renowned podcast, one of the top consulting podcasts in the world, if not the best. So happy to be with you.
I really appreciate the kind words. And before hitting record, just spend some time talking about where you grew up and sharing our love for the Middle Eastern region and all it has to offer. So I really enjoyed connecting with you around that. But for everyone who is wondering who is Georges, if you're not familiar with Georges, he is the CEO of Link Advisory Group. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's also a board member to several companies. His clients include well-known names like Marriott Group, Hilton, and a whole bunch of others. But before we get into how consultants can start to learn and apply the best practices and the tactics and the mindsets and the principles, Georges, that you have put to work that have really helped you to grow many businesses quite rapidly, take us back to the early days. I know you shared with me that you are originally from Lebanon. Before you actually started consulting and advising for organizations, what were you doing? What was your kind of timeline and career path from a young guy in Lebanon to where you are today in Boston in the US?
Such a very open-ended question. I could talk for hours, but I want to make it as concise and short as possible. Well, you rightfully said it. So I'm originally Lebanese. I was born and raised in Lebanon. And for who knows our region in the Middle East, I've grown in the civil wars times in Lebanon. So that obviously have impacted a lot the level of resilience, making sure that you find your own way around things. And this has been part of who I am and has always influenced me, looking also at the family and the way we were able to, avoid all the hot places during those tough times. This is basically the start of George. It's all about hardship. It's all about the learnings that I went through. I am a hotelier by education. I was born in a family where values are really important for us. Commitment, loyalty, honesty, and always being fair to each other and so on. So as a hotelier, obviously translating those into the service industry is also key, committed to the service, committed to making people happy and so on. So hospitality was my first interaction with the business world, always an entrepreneur at heart. I started a small wedding planning company in the early days, even during my university times. I've done 6-7 weddings at the time where wedding planning was not yet known in our part of the world. But then, worked my way through the hospitality industry, working with groups like Hilton's, like Sheraton's during those times, and all the way from Yemen in the GCC to Saudi, also in the GCC, meaning the Gulf region, then to Abu Dhabi or the UAE and Dubai recently. This has been a bit my historical moving from hospitality to advertising and marketing at some stage, being in the communications field, then moving back to hospitality on the development side of the hospitality, developing projects and landmarks such as the Louvre Abu Dhabi, Saadiyat Island, landmarks really that I was blessed and being part of a team since 2007, developed all those projects, leading communications for the group and being able to really communicate with global brands and stakeholders across the globe, from the likes of the French museums or Agence France Musée to the Louvre to the British Museum Guggenheim, architects the likes of Frank Gehry, Jean Nouvel, and all these were part of the communication stakeholders. So this has been a journey that had a lot of tough moments, moving from a country to a country like a nomad. And this is one of our Lebanese destiny. The destiny of a Lebanese is always being a nomad because of the situation in Lebanon. That's how it is. And I guess this always gave us strengths and more power to do better and better and succeed and reach where we reach. And now you can look globally, you can find Lebanese everywhere.
I want to explore more of that experience and the mindset that came from that experience as we continue our conversation. But I have to say that I've never worked directly in hospitality other than some service jobs that as I had when I was a kid. But after living and building a business in Japan for many years, I've always been so enamored and interested in the world of service and hospitality when you are able to create these experiences and these environments for people. Just good service is just something that I've always valued. And your values that you just shared around family and honesty and all these really resonate with me. So I think it sounds like we have a lot in common. I'll enjoy this conversation. You mentioned that you focused on kind of the tourism hospitality world pretty early on. Where did that come from? I know you did the wedding business, but why did you decide hospitality as opposed to something else completely different?
I mean, there was no real intention. I guess I was attracted to the industry. My personality, my character, being a person who loves people and is very much likes to socialize, it was a natural pick for me. I didn't choose it out of a scientific or any sort of study or, at that early age. I just felt that, this is what I want to do. I love F&B. I love restaurant business. I love food. I love fine things in life. Every single experience on a personal level, I like to enjoy it from A to Z. That just attracted me. And I found myself in the hospitality industry, obviously with a lot of mentors around me that helped me to grow into where I reached within that career. I'm a hotelier by heart and I'm a hotelier by education because hospitality industry has impacted the world in many areas. And one of the CEOs of the major advertising agencies used to pick people for account management from the hospitality industry to manage clients, obviously for a reason. So the hospitality has a lot to offer to all the industries around the world. Eventually, the hospitality is an amalgamation of everything. So you can be an accountant and a financier, you can be a housekeeper, you can work on the maintenance and engineering. So it is an amalgamation of everything. And then a lot of my hospitality friends, they ventured from hospitality to other industries, such as myself, where I ventured eventually from being into operation to moving into development and creating destinations and attractions into creating a transformation and a growth accelerate, some sort of consulting within transformation and acceleration field.
And George, you started in hospitality, you went into advertising and you went in a few different industries, but you've often kind of ended back, as you mentioned, in the world of hospitality. Looking back kind of from where you are today, how important do you think it is that you had a specialization, that you had a real focus and that you've kind of stuck to, for the most part, the world of hospitality and tourism and so forth, as opposed to having many, many different things and just being able to work with any different type of organization? In your experience, has that played a pretty pivotal or important role to be known as an expert in the hotel management or hospitality or tourism industry?
It's an important question. And my answer to that is yes, specialization is key. Being known for something is key. This is your brand that people, whenever they hear your name, they know that you have this background. Now, to be able to pivot to other industries or to go a little bit one layer on top of a certain specialization, it has to be as well linked to that in a way or another. So yes, it is important. It is crucial actually to be known and to have an experience. And the more you build up this experience, the more you will have credibility as an individual working with people. Your experience becomes really wide. And if I want to give advice out of my own experience is, while you are focusing on an area, try to explore what comes around it and not just be stuck in one area specifically. For example, if you're a hotelier like myself, I did a lot of internship when I was young, such as in the F&B, in restaurants, in hotels and what have you. Eventually, I'm a very motivated, self-motivated and highly ambitious guy. And I always wanted to move forward in the hospitality. The ultimate progression where I wanted to reach was in the development sphere, rather than just being a hotelier, operating a hotel or operating a restaurant or what have you. I went and I joined, obviously, a developer that develops attractions, develops landmarks, and develops tourism for a country. So it's not hospitality in the sense of a hotel itself, because there is always a misperception that the hospitality means hotels, or hospitality means wellness, it means spa, it means attractions, it means leisure, it means all these things. So try to get the experience within an industry and what does it entail. And I'm sure with every single industry, there are a lot of specializations that roam around the industry. Try to explore them and then choose where you want to be and where you want to go out of there, instead of just getting stuck somewhere, because that's experience, that's diversity, that's multi-skilled.
I think that's a really good piece of advice. It's a good exercise to have people think through, right? A bit of creative thinking, where you are, where do you want to go, where could you be? Don't just accept the status quo, but allow yourself to kind of enjoy that thought process and play around with it a little bit. A great idea. I want to get into how you took your company, Link Advisory Group, from zero to multi-millions in a pretty short period of time, because I'm sure there's lessons inside of that. But before we go there, Link is established, or at least based, in the UAE. You today are in Boston, which is your home. Walk us through, like, why company in UAE, you're in Boston. What's the reason?
That's a nice question. It's just happened this way. Actually, I moved recently to Boston. So I've been here for the last, I would say, 3 to 4 months. It's very recent. And our operation is still in the UAE, managing things from here with the team and with my business partners. But I believe that the US is also a fertile ground to expand and to start also, because of many things. One of them is the entrepreneurship. Boston has been known as one of the major incubators in the world along Silicon Valley, and we cannot discount that. So I believe that this is a real place for Link Advisory to also plant a seed and start growing here. Knowing what we can offer, I believe this is really a good place to be.
I thought maybe you just came because you wanted to experience the Boston winter and the UAE was getting a bit too warm or something.
Maybe that's another reason.
There we go. Let's dive into Link itself, because you talk about this openly, that you started it from almost nothing. And in a fairly short period of time, because the company's only been around maybe 6 or so years, it's generating multi-millions in revenue. When you look at everything that you've done in the business from start to where you are today, what do you feel, and maybe there's just a few things, or maybe there's many, but if you could identify and kind of narrow in on a few things you feel contributed most to the rapid success, what would they be?
Well, first, to start with, Link was established in 2015. So almost 7 years. In 2022 will be 7 years. What contributed to the rapid is passion for the business, the wanting to create something, and the purpose that was also attached to that. Meaning, Link Advisory today, when we started the company as a hospitality development and advisory because of my background. Now, with all my experiences, and as I mentioned at the beginning, everything is linked. That's why Link, right? Everything is linked. I found myself with my partner, obviously, by default, going into transformation. Even when we're working with the hospitality, so one of the groups we worked with in Indonesia, for example, they needed a lot of work on their group. They had 15 hotels and they needed to create some sort of a portfolio strategy and what have you. And we realized that it's not just the strategy, it's the people, it's everything around the business. And transformation is all about people. So you cannot develop or grow a business without considering this as a main factor, whether on Link's side or on Link client's side. So we moved to the transformation aspect of the hospitality consultancy. And I believe this was one of the first, because hospitality consulting has been traditional since ever. And the way we looked at it is this cannot carry on. The typical feasibility study, finding an operator, all these services are great, but this is really all traditional. We realized that this needs to change, and it has to do with our characters, being entrepreneurs, being also working with large groups previously. We didn't feel we had only a consulting trait. We also felt that we approached this with a bold, honest, deep-rooted conversations. And that's what created the grip and credibility with clients. We are not scared to say the truth when we talk to people. Obviously, a lot of consultants or consulting concept traditionally is always putting the option in front of the client and let the client choose. So you make sure that the responsibility lies on the client. Well, we believe you need to give the client a handle, and you need to create some sort of a direction and you need to be bold.
Does that mean that you are giving a very kind of a direct recommendation? If you really believe that there's a best path for the client to take, are you just going to say, hey, like, here's where I feel you should go and why? Or just walk us through, like, what does that look like for you when you say that you're giving them a handle?
First, we have created our own intellectual property. We call it the transformation intersect. It's a methodology that we always use that creates growth. It's some sort of an infinite process that works on two pillars, people and clients. People, we mean internally, the process, the quality, the leadership, the coaching, and the optimization of all of this, the vision. And then the client leads your innovation in a way or another. They need to be part of your product development, the experience journey, the value of the organization in terms of commercial or valuation, what have you, comes also from the client base you have. So this is the methodology that we use. It's always the point of intersection. That's what's called the transformation intersect. It's where the growth happens. It's where new intention push really hard on current limitation. So that's the approach that we take. We obviously explore many directions, but if we feel strong about one of the directions, we make sure to tell the client that this is what we think needs to happen. We deal with it as entrepreneurs. We don't deal with it just as consultants. And that's created credibility, created safety, because with uncertainties and with plateaus and companies are really backing and losing market share, there is a lot of uncertainty, fear, and what have you. The last thing they need is someone that gives them many options and really doesn't really guides them and just really throw the fireball in their hands. You need to hold that fireball together. It's like you're one, right? You're not a client and I'm not a supplier. We're a team. We're partners in this, and your success is ours.
While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early-stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early-stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
I'm very interested in what you mentioned, that the hospitality kind of management, the process, the approach that many organizations and consultancies and firms were taking was very old school. And here you're bringing a newer approach to it. What have you found that works best when you are trying to topple an old way of doing something? I believe many consultants see a better approach. They kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, but they find it hard to communicate that to their ideal clients because it requires a lot of education. It requires maybe the client to do things differently than they've done them before. If they're used to just doing the feasibility study and so on, it's like that's what they're used to doing. If you're trying to bring a whole new idea, that can often take a lot longer. What have you found? I mean, I know you mentioned having kind of deep, meaningful conversations with clients. Is it as simple as that? You just do whatever is necessary to sit down and have that kind of conversation where you can be very open? Or is there something else that you've found plays a big role and has a big impact when it comes to getting people to see a new way of doing things?
There is a typical one, and there is what we found. Let's put it this way. The typical approach is that you need to educate. You need to go on social media, on LinkedIn. You need to write the pieces, the white papers. You need to attend events and be part of all this scene. But also there is what we found. And this is where you will be surprised that companies and owners and entrepreneurs are screaming for something new. They want to hear that there is something non-traditional that can support them to grow their business and help them to bounce back. It's not magic. It's as simple as that. The magic, I believe, lies in the values that you bring to the table. It is making sure that client shares your values. Because if client doesn't share your values, the journey cannot carry on. Being in a still developing market where we do business in our part of the world is very tough to find clients that share those values, not because they are not there. Definitely they are there. But there is a traditional cultural way of doing business, which means there is a lot of approaching the consultants in non-serious way. There is a lot of disempowerment between the ownership and the management. So it's like, to some extent, you have a team that is managing, but always the decision comes from the owner. There are a lot of those companies in our part of the world.
But how do you find the values? How are you able to identify whether a prospective client and buyer shares the same values as you? Is it just through the conversation? Is it asking some questions? How do you kind of align that?
Conversations and asking questions. You realize from the first minute their approach. If they want something quick, dirty, that doesn't make sense, and they are not giving the right weight to what they are trying to do, you feel that they might not be the right people for you. Valuing people, you can easily spot from their organization. Do they value people? Is culture important for them? Yes or no? Is it all about the commercial only? Yes or no? Basically, it has to be about the commercial, but it's also about many other things. It's the entrepreneur, also the owner of the business. You will be able to understand how integral they are. What's the reputation of that company? Why people leave the company? Why the turnover is high? Do they really have a genuine interest to change all of this? Or it is just an exercise because the board wants it? So all these things you will be able to discover when we do a discovery session with the client. Then you will say at the end of the session, this is an interesting job. It has a lot of challenges and we want to take it on board. And we try to design the relationship. We put our approach and our methodology at the forefront. The way we do it is we don't go to take the business and then we introduce them to how we do it. When we want to take the business, at that time, we tell them how we do it. We tell them we will not bullshit you. If you're not going to be committed, we will not be able to work with you. If we are recommending a solution and is just being put in the drawer, this is not going to help you. And we will raise the flag. And in fact, a couple of years ago, there was a client that was not really taking what we're doing seriously. And we had to stop the mandate. It should be this way. We could probably went another 3 to 4 months and charge the client more. But we believe that this is the best way to go, is to tell the client you're wasting your money because you're not being able to. Yeah.
Right. It makes sense. Yeah. I want to take us back to the growth of your business. Looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently? Knowing what you know today, is there anything that you feel, if I would have done this earlier, if I would have done this differently, we could have been able to grow even faster or be more successful or more profitable? Or what stands out for you?
I would have loved probably to have more mentors.
Why is that?
Culturally, I was brought up is about depending on yourself most of the time. And this is something that I discovered in the recent 4 or 5 years, that more mentors along the way is crucially important. And this is why I make myself available as a mentor for many young entrepreneurs. It's out of that pain, basically. Other than having more mentors throughout my journey for the business of Link Advisory specifically, is having a lot of testing at the beginning of the business.
What do you mean by testing?
Like when you create an IP, you have to share it among friends, among maybe business peers, get more opinions around it. I guess this is something that we did not do at first, but we were able to recover from this shortly after that. This probably costed us a couple of years at the early stage. All of these things, there is always some things that you would have done differently, aligning with your business partner from day one, rather than discovering things along the way. This is also crucial. But still being able to recover from that and having those tough conversations and may still make it happen, because again, if you share values, then the rest can be designed. There is no issue whatsoever. They come at a price, but I guess we have to go through them to know that they are important. And there's no full end-to-end blueprint without case studies. Like every blueprint out there is theoretical until you go in the business, in the mud, and you roll up your sleeves and you start. And then it's a day-by-day experience.
Yeah, the ability to recover is essential in the world of entrepreneurship. You are someone who is no stranger to challenges, to roadblocks, to hardship. And so I'm wondering about COVID. COVID-19 obviously had a very strong impact on the hospitality sector. When things started to get really bad in the world, and there's panic and there's fear and there's a lot of unknowns, what was going on in your mind? You're no stranger to challenging situations, yet this is a globally kind of challenging situation that is directly impacting and affecting the industry that you are focused on. How did you, first of all, just process that in from a mindset perspective? And then next, what did you do?
As a human being, COVID deprived us from the sense of being in control. Although in reality, you are not always in control and you're never going to be always in control. There is always uncertainty and unknowns. But COVID made this very prominent to us as a human, like depriving us from the sense of we are driving our car or leading our business or even leading our families, and being present for our families. Some people who have lost relatives could not attend their memorials or burials or whatever, it deprived you from all those sense of being in control and things that we thought that it was a given. It's easy to get and accessible. So that's as from a human perspective. And that has impacted me a lot in terms of reflecting on those things. What's the priority? What's important for me in this context? But also as a business, we had a pipeline of clients that suddenly the pipeline is not there anymore. You had pipeline of cash coming your way from bills that suddenly is not coming your way anymore. You had plans of 2-3 years and those plans suddenly they are void. They disappeared. As dramatic as I am saying it, this was the reality. And this has created a lot of anxiety, uncertainty on a business level. Now, dealing with it is the key. The way I believe we dealt with it was immediately bringing the team together, having, again, a tough conversation internally. How can we sustain ourselves? I guess if I want to put a title to this is bringing the sense of community into the business rather than just being colleagues. So we treated the business as a community, and then how can we be in service of each other, create a sense of trust and security, and then from there, moving the same context and the same concept to our clients. Now let's have this conversation with our clients. Let's see if we can create some sort of a community within the client base, i.e. being there for them, advising them at free of charge. We need to perform. We cannot stay in hibernation for a long period of time. So we have reached to our clients and we, offered our services. We have even one of the main partnerships we did in COVID was the partnership with 2Y3X. I believe you know Felix Velarde and you've interviewed him before he was a guest at your podcast. We actually met in a pro bono exercise. How beautiful is to meet someone and you become partners with because of a shared value and by coincidence. So this is how the journey was. It's always about the process that you go through. And that process is when it is tough, there is something emerging. Wait for it. And when it comes, take it and go forward.
Really good advice. Before we wrap up, I have a few more questions I want to ask you. One is, I know that you are very big into investing in yourself, learning, as you said, surrounding yourself with coaches and people that can help you to get to that next level. When you think about your typical day-to-day activities, is there a habit, a principle, a practice, a mindset that is with you consistently every day that you feel plays a really big kind of role and has a big impact on your performance and success that you're able to achieve?
I love the way you led this from having coaches around you. So self-growth is important, like investing in self is important. I did my leadership certification in the last few years, my coaching certification. So I'm a coach myself as well. Again, it's all linked and it's part of all of this. But the main habits that you can create to be a high performer and to be able to create some sort of a strong foundation mentally, physically, and with a strong heart in all of this is, number one, I believe an early riser is a great asset to have.
How early is early for you?
It could be 4, it could be 5 a.m. That's key. I've been an early riser forever, and I invest my first couple of hours in reading, in journaling, in exercising a little bit, and in meditating. Those 4 exercises, I do them in the morning. I get a lot of intuitions and a lot of thoughts during these 1 or 2 hours. You will always face difficulties to do them regularly, but with the consistency in mind, you will be able to succeed 90% of the time. It's okay not to succeed 100% of the time. We are human at the end of the day. We embrace that and we go for it. So this is key for any entrepreneur and even any individual, not necessarily someone who is just successful in the business world. He or she or they could be successful in being a parent. As long as you are mentally, physically sane, then you can be present and for everyone around you, your business community, your family. So when they ask me, George, introduce yourself, or they introduce me, I start by saying I'm a parent, and that's key. So for me to be able to be present for my family, for my kids, I have 3 daughters, so a full-time job for my wife and myself, and it's beautiful. So for you to be present for them, you need to be healthy and you need to be mentally sound as much as possible. There are always ups and downs, but this is part of life. The way you deal with it, with open mind and open heart, that makes a difference a lot in where you are.
The other question I have for you, George, is the last 6 or so months, if you were to choose one book that you have read or listened to, could be fiction or nonfiction, that you just have really enjoyed and would recommend, what would that book be?
In the context of what we are living, I guess The Alchemist, again and again.
Great book.
It's a classic and is an amazing book, and it's inspiring and it ticks a lot of boxes. But definitely there are lots of books. There is a book that I read was called Risk Forward. It's a beautiful book. There is the Scale at Speed is a nice book for the business, obviously. There is the 4 Agreements on Self. It's an amazing book to
small
read.
but powerful concepts.
Small but super powerful concept. Leadership and self-deception. That's beyond what important for leaders and CEOs and organizations. Getting out of the box as a leader in all those tough situations when dealing with the humans. There is presence and sensing the field of the future. That's also a beautiful book that is amazing. There is The Dysfunctions of a Team, the 4 Dysfunctions of a Team.
That's a very, very good list. So thank you for sharing those with us. And thank you for coming on today and sharing a bit of your story and your journey, your lessons learned and your success. It was a really great conversation. And I'm hoping that people took away as much of these insights and ideas and exercises and stimulations as I did. But I want to make sure that people can learn more about you and your work. Where's the best place for people to go to learn more about Link Advisory Group and the work that you do?
There is the website. Obviously, they can access our company website, linkadvisory.com. They can also access our profiles on LinkedIn. And we are more than happy to exchange and start with the discovery. We always start with the discovery session as a free of charge, because this is just a conversation. We start with that and then we take the business conversation forward. I want to just add one more thing that's always on my mind, because when we appear in all those podcasts and in interviews, we appear as the product behind the journey. But this is just the product that you see today is some sort of the end product or towards the end product. There is a lot of work, hardship, sleepless nights, tears that were put into what we're trying to present and to share our experiences and wisdom and what have you. Still a lot to learn, obviously. I felt it at some stage. It was intimidating listening to all those leaders. And I thought that this is something unattainable. And I want to tell all the entrepreneurs, especially the young ones, that there is nothing intimidating. We've went the same journey that you're going today. You're going to fail. You're going to hit obstacles. Keep on trying and things will definitely lead to greatness in a way or another.
Yeah, that's a powerful message, a very true message in my own experience as well. A great place to wrap up. George, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.